Hey Simonites, what's up? Welcome back to a new tutorial. This one is once again a tutorial selected by the community and it is about Firebase Analytics inside Ionic applications. So we will integrate Firebase into our application with an additional Capacitor plugin to get the statistics, log events, properties, different things from our Ionic app to Firebase. So let's do this. I already did a few things, so let's go through them quickly. So first of all, I started a blank new Ionic application, type Angular, using Capacitor, and I always like to specify my package ID right in the beginning. So you usually should know what package ID you're going to use. This will actually make life a bit easier since changing the package ID after you've created the native platforms with Capacitor is a bit more challenging. So then go into your project, generate a new service, which will hold all the functionalities for analytics, and then install the Capacitor community plugin for Firebase Analytics. You can find this right in the kinda new Capacitor community. And so here we go. There are a few steps to integrate this plugin, but of course, first of all, install it. After this first setup, you can run Ionic build because it's required to add the native platform. Since we need to customize them a bit, just run one Ionic build in the beginning and add your platforms. So once we're done with this, we can move on to Firebase. So I've already created a project here, but you can also simply go ahead, give it a name, test, whatever. And then make sure that you add Google Analytics for your project. So you can simply keep this enabled, select an account, and then the property in that account will be created. That's basically all. So this is the application I already created. And from the project settings, you can now add 3 different applications. So you can add the web one, the Android, and the iOS. Just put in whatever name, and that's basically all for all 3. Only for iOS and Android, make sure you use the right bundle ID in here. The rest is really optional and not important. And once you get this, we can get started with the web since this holds the configuration we need for the web. So simply put this into your environment.ts, always the best place to store your Firebase configuration. This configuration is actually only used on a device, and I just noticed I have also a second page in my application, so I think that was not in our initial script, but I'm pretty sure you know how to create a second page. This is only used for the web. For iOS and Android, we need a little bit different approach. So for iOS, there's this Google Service Info plist, and for Android, a Google Services JSON file that you can download from here. Both of these files need to go into the native folders of your application. So for Android, it's actually quite easy. Just navigate to Android app and then put the file right here. So just into Android/app. That's all you need to do for Android, first step. The second step for Android, well, let's just stick to the files. For iOS, it's a bit more challenging since you can't just copy the file in here, but you can run npx cap open iOS. And then let me see if I can find the file somewhere so I can show you how it should look like. So you open Xcode and you really need to copy this file into Xcode. So inside the app folder, you can drag your file and make sure that copy items, if needed, is checked, because that's just important. I'm not sure what magic is happening inside Xcode, but it's important that you check this, and then the Google Service Info plist will be in here. So plist for iOS, JSON file for Android. For iOS, that's basically all for now. For Android, we need to take another step. So go to Android app source main, and then this is usually the package ID of your application. So in my case, it's com-devdactic analytics, where you can find your main activity. This is really used for all Capacitor plugins. You import the actual Capacitor plugin, so this line is added, and then you add the Firebase Analytics class within this initializer. There's always the information on the plugin page, so you see import and add. That's really the steps you always need to take for Android. No other configuration is needed. That's a great news. And then we can continue with our analytics service, because I think it's a good idea to put all of our logic into one class so you can use it from everywhere in your application, because your use case will be different. So let's go through this. First of all, let's create a function. I'm not sure what's wrong today with me. And let's call this init Firebase. And that's actually only called for the web, since on the web we need to use our Firebase configuration. And therefore we can import first of all the plugins from Capacitor core, and then we can destructure the object into device and Firebase Analytics. So that's the new plugin, that's a core API. And with the help of our core API, we can check if await device.getInfo, which is a promise. So you need a few brackets in here. I hope you can see this. So the await is basically for this call, and then we can use the dot on this because then we already got the value, and check if we're running on the web. And then we use our Firebase Analytics to, there's no code completion. That's really sad. That really makes me sad. Initialize Firebase with the data we have stored in our environment. So make sure you're not selecting environment.prod, just select the environment from the folder. That's all you need. That means for the web, we're now initializing our analytics with this call. Now, there are a few functions on Firebase Analytics that you can use, and I will just bring in a few helper functions so we can see what's going on. First of all, set user. In our simple example, I don't really have any user ID to identify the user, but if you have some kind of authentication system, that's the perfect place to use the unique user ID from Firebase. So then you can track all events related to one user. You can use this in combination later with push notifications, so it really makes sense to automatically set the user perhaps after the login. Then you can simply set properties on the current user. I just used this one. I think you can have 25 unique properties per project. So don't use anything. Keep a few of them, like has seen my intro, has logged in, has created an account, purchased something. Anything really more on the top level, so not super small things. Then, of course, one main function of these tools is always to log an event. There are already within your Firebase project a few events recommended. So within the Analytics tab, you can go to Events, and up here you would see a few recommended events like sign up, login, share, tutorial begin, whatever. And to use them, you just need the event name. And you can check right here which parameters are passed to this. So in this case, only the method. And for us, it looks like this. Log event gets a name and an object of params, and we just set the method to email. So on that way, you could track different events or log different events in your application. Next one, set screen name. That's actually an interesting one, which is only supported on iOS and Android. We can see this from this handy view right here. Set screen name not supported on the web. I don't know if it will be supported, but for now it is not supported. So this will only work on iOS and Android. I will tell you a little bit more about this in a second. Let's quickly cover toggle analytics. Perhaps you have some legal requirements, or in general, you perhaps disable analytics in the beginning, but then you can use Firebase Analytics set collection enabled, and this is basically true or false. I just kept this in a variable right here. So let's set this to true. And then whenever we toggle them, we just swap them to false, or switch them to false. Now back to set screen name. I think this really makes sense if we combine it with the Angular router. Although the router doesn't offer too much information, we can actually get a bit of information. So what I did in my testing is I came up with this little snippet here. Of course, We need filter from RxJS operators, and we need router event from Angular router, and navigation and from Angular router. So we filter for all the navigation and event, which basically means we've changed the URL in our application. For a single page application like Angular applications, it's always hard to track the right page views. And by subscribing to the router, you can actually get the different events. Now, you only don't have a name of the URL, so that's really just the URL. I don't know in how far it will be helpful. Perhaps you could also access your actual routing setup and grab the component name from there, because usually if you look at other tutorials, they will have not only screen name, but come on, okay, I thought I could dive into the package. So they have something like override anything, another property, but that's not really mandatory. You can just use the screen name, so I will just use this one. Okay, great. Now we need to make sure that our analytics service is actually used within our application. So we will do this within our homepage. So let's use the constructor. And then we could actually save this. We can't really create or test anything simply because we haven't added the buttons. And within the debug view, we should see 0 devices. So that's the view we're actually going to use. It's normal that you don't see any data for the testing inside your dashboard, or we might see something, but this happens like a few hours later or even a day later. And this is also kind of strange. It's always still last 28 days, which excludes your current date. So make sure if you're looking for something, change this to today in all the views. So let's quickly add a few functions that make use of our service. So like set user, set property, log event, and also reflecting the status of the enabled variable. Can I just use the analytics service? Come on, what's the code completion today? Okay, was my fault, sorry. So we can toggle it as well. Let's move on to the homepage, because we're just really making use of the stuff we created in the service. That was really the most important part. This is just to set user, set property, log event, a router link to the second page. As I said, if you don't know how to do it, Ionic, generate page, inside the pages folder, second, and then you got your second page. And if you also want to go back from the second page, simply add an ion button slot. For me, this is really just like standard stuff, so I hope I'm not too fast in this part of the tutorial. So there we go, our implementation. Now things get tricky because I will try to show you the other view right to this, and I'm actually not sure if it will work. So first of all, when I tested these things, you click this, and the live reload is out of sync. Yeah, let's just bring it up again. So you click it and you basically get no log, although we got an error this time. And to get debugging within the web view, there's actually a plugin. Let me, where is it? There we go. It's inside the Chrome store, Chrome web store, so the Google Analytics debugger. I've added this to Chrome, and once you got this, you got this icon. I'm actually not sure why it looks like. I have no idea what it looks like, but it doesn't look that good. So turn it on, and then we should hopefully be able to see some events within our debug view when the application comes up. Because otherwise you don't really get any response, and the regular events take like a few hours to appear actually inside Firebase. So if you, hello, please, I did everything. Does not have a web implementation. Oh, that's great. That error is actually great. Whenever you use a Capacitor plugin and you want to use it on the web, you need to add one more thing. And that's importing the actual plugin like this. So without this line, the plugin is not registered for the web. And now we should see that the error is gone. Right now we see route changed and a lot of commands right here. Let me, for testing, also disable this. So then we see we can click these things and we don't really get any response. We have no idea if it actually worked. So that's why I installed the Google Analytics debugger in the first place. Now with that enabled, we already see a lot of things going on, so many things. And right now we see debug device, not sure what's wrong with the font in here. First visit, page view, session start. Let's try and randomly click on everything that we got. And I'm actually not sure how well this works. I've seen it come in instantly right here. And I've seen the events come in like not at all. So debugging all of this was really challenging when I tried to create this. We definitely see that it's possible. So our app is connected and we see stuff going on in here. But sometimes I feel like the debugger here or the debug live view is like not connecting the events at all. And I have no idea why it's not working. This is really the annoying part. It took me like the morning, but I've definitely seen everything that I did in here already within the view here. So in the beginning I had connected it kind of wrong, but eventually I figured everything out. I created a new project and then I definitely saw them. Of course, they're not happening now while recording the video, but usually you should see them in the debug view. Within the stream view, you should also see your users, but I think while we are in debug view, this actually doesn't appear here. But for real users, that would also be the place to see all the latest stuff going on. So maybe I can somehow fix this. Otherwise, we continue for now with a bit more of the native implementation. Yeah, well, let's just go to the native apps. So if you want to build your native application, simply go ahead, npx, Ionic build and npx cap sync. This will build your application and sync the web code to the native platforms. Now, there are two things one thing for each platform. So for iOS, you need to open Xcode, and from the top menu, which you can't see in my screen, you need to select Product, Scheme, Edit Scheme. And within the run configuration arguments, so it usually starts here, go to arguments, add this little fear debug enabled. While this is enabled, the iOS application will always immediately send all events to Firebase. So that helps, and your application should appear right here in the debug view. For Android, there's also something you need to do, and that's running a little command which I've stored somewhere. So while your device, that's iOS, that's the Android device, while your device is connected, you need to run adb shell set property debug Firestore Analytics app, followed by your package ID. In my case, this would be com-dev-degtic analytics. In your case, it is of course your very own package ID. So use this one. If you're done with debugging, you manually need to set this to none. And the same counts for Xcode, in which you need to go to the scheme bag. And then I think you need to add it like debug disabled. Yeah, basically like this, just you do it right. Okay, now I guess now everything's gone. So you would replace the enabled by disabled. So that would be the trick. Now let's check if the build is done. It's actually done, so we'll just deploy it to, let's just use an iPhone, and then we will check the debug view again. All right, the app is running on the iOS simulator, and now I got two options. I don't know why I got two more options, but we see a bit of stuff going on. and the screen view is actually interesting because the screen view is what is triggered when our screen changes. So get screen name should be this event. Let's try to keep this a bit smaller and somewhere inside the data. Yeah, now we see now navigating to the empty route, and hopefully this one was navigating. Hello, where's the value? Auto. Well. As I said, I'm really not a huge fan of this view, and I don't know why I got a second emulator here. At least we see that we have set a user property framework to Angular. That's good news. The screen view, there we finally see we navigated to the second screen. At that point we got user engagement, which is basically like tapping in the application. The log event is right here, so we used the login and method email, so all the data we had in our application are now right here within our debugging view. We've set the user ID to test, so actually all information is here. Maybe I just picked the wrong device, so maybe it's better than I think. For Android, I would actually recommend to just run the live reload, and then from Android Studio deploy to your application, to your device, and then you should be fine as well. So that's already the end. The implementation of Firebase Analytics in your Ionic application with Capacitor isn't too hard. You just need to copy basically the two files from your Firebase project into the native folders, and that's mostly all for the connection. Then you just need to find a way to not blow up your complete code and just put in events in the right places. Perhaps you don't need to subscribe to the router event and see everything going on, and just log the important events when somebody is interested in a specific news, project, topic, anything like this. So keep it to relevant data. Use authentication information from Firebase if you're already using it anyway. And otherwise, let me know if you got any other questions about Firebase Analytics in your Ionic project. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and stay subscribed so you get notified about all the new tutorials, quick wins, and other app development and web development videos on this channel. If you want to learn more about Ionic with in-depth courses, a community of like-minded developers so you can learn and build your apps faster, you should definitely check out the Ionic Academy, which is my code school to help you with everything Ionic, with a huge library of courses, material, and a supportive Slack channel so we can get your app out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you inside the next video. Have a great day and happy coding. Simon.